Have you ever eaten something and felt instantly guilty afterwards? Same. Food guilt used to control my life, but it doesn't anymore, and I'm going to show you how. Hi, I'm Sarah. I'm 16 and I'm recently recovered from an eating disorder. All of my content is about encouraging people to recover from eating disorders, raising awareness about mental health, and encouraging self-love. In this video, I will be discussing why food guilt occurs and my top tips for dealing with it. I'll do this as quickly as possible so I don't waste your time and attention. Firstly, food guilt occurs when we label foods as good or bad. Good for weight loss, good for health, etc. The idea that some foods are better than others is a universally accepted concept. I'm sure you've heard someone say at some point in your life, "Oh, I'll have this salad because I'm trying to be good," or "I'm just going to have fruit instead of chocolate for dessert." With everyone knowing and enforcing the idea that some foods are better than others, when people eat the foods that are quote unquote bad foods, of course, they will feel guilty. But luckily, there is a positive to all of this. Even though it's hard, you can surpass this guilt trap. Here are my top tips for doing so. Tip number 1, stop labeling foods as good or bad. There are no good or bad foods because there is no one food that can diminish your quality of life or your health as much as an eating disorder could. Also, no one food defines your health. It's all about what you eat over a longer period of time anyway. I like to change my mindset. Rather than calling foods healthy or unhealthy or good or bad, I call them more nutrient dense versus less nutrient dense foods. This is not just a synonym for good or bad because I think it is so much healthier to have this mindset. You eat the nutrient dense foods so that you can fuel your body with all the micronutrients, vitamins, and minerals that you need, and then you eat the less nutrient dense foods for your soul and for your heart, or in other words, just pure enjoyment and freedom. A balance between all foods will contribute to your overall well-being, including your mental and physical health. My next tip is to stop taking advice from people who don't know you or your body's needs. Every body is so unique, but with social media, there are so many people telling you what to do, what to eat, how to exercise, how to do literally everything in your life. But they have no idea whether or not you're on your period, whether or not you are in recovery. They don't know all these details about you that contribute to how much and what you should be eating. I actually saw this quote that said, "If you follow everyone's instructions regarding food, you will be left with nothing to eat." See what I mean? So it is important to eat what is good and best for you. What I mean by this is honoring your body's hunger, honoring your body's cravings, and eating the foods you know make you feel good. For example, some people genuinely find that a vegan diet improves their health and makes them feel better. I, on the other hand, love my eggs, love my salmon, and love my yogurt, and I would much rather have that than tofu or coconut yogurt. And that's just a personal preference. So genuinely, without the influence of your eating disorder, choose what you know is best for you. Focusing on what you need will help you beat the guilt because every time that some influencer says that keto is the best or the carnivore diet is the best or the vegan diet is the best, you will know what is best for you, and so you will ignore the advice that you know is just not suited for your needs. My next tip is to avoid restriction. Now, what I'm about to say applies to all areas of life, and it is a hard pill to swallow, but to beat your fears, you have to face them. So if you no longer want to feel guilt or anxiety around food, you have to eat those foods. You're probably going to have to eat those foods multiple times to finally beat the fear, and you'll probably have to continue eating that food regularly so that the fear doesn't come back. It is also important to challenge food rules because our eating disorder brain typically creates new random rules for us to follow. For example, when I was struggling with an eating disorder, I never had a fear of rice per se, but but I had a fear of eating more than a small specific quantity that I allowed myself to have. So I started challenging that fear by simply eating more than that small quantity on a regular basis. And I still do that to this day, even though I consider myself recovered. In fact, I don't even measure my rice at all, but I know that I'm eating way more than that little quantity that I used to allow myself to have. Also, during recovery, some people might try to eat the foods that they're afraid of and then compensate for that somehow later or beforehand. For example, if they know that they're going to be eating a large portion of pasta, maybe they'll try and exercise a lot beforehand or afterwards, or not eat anything else for the rest of the day. If this is you, I'm sorry. I understand where you're coming from because I used to be the same, but that is not real recovery, and that is not truly beating your fears. You've got to take that suffering raw and push through, and I promise you, you'll make it and it will be worth it. My next tip is to practice some self-compassion. We are so mean to ourselves. Like, we are meaner to ourselves than we are to anyone else typically. Especially in recovery, you need to be that person who comforts, supports, and cares for yourself. Say those words that you know you need to hear. Remind yourself that just how one salad won't make you lose weight, one donut won't make you gain weight. And I'm not saying that gaining or losing weight is wrong. That's not what we're talking about. But what I'm trying to say is that the foods that you're so afraid of really won't have all of those negative consequences you think they'll have. So there's really no good reason for you to get so anxious about them. Down below in the description, I'm going to include some of my favorite phrases that I think would be really helpful when you are trying to combat negative thoughts, food guilt, anxiety, so that you can have some guidelines as to what words you should say to yourself to help yourself push through. Somewhat connected to my last point, this point is about challenging negative thoughts. When I was beginning my recovery, I started to imagine that I had two brains, an ED brain and a rational brain. Of course, the ED brain is the brain that told me to engage in eating disorder habits and told me random lies like that one donut is going to make you gain weight. And the rational brain was the brain that knew better, the brain that knew that these eating disorder habits were ruining my health and the fact that that one donut actually would not make me gain weight overnight. So when the eating disorder brain was trying to negatively influence me during my recovery, I used my rational brain to fight back in my head. I was cooking my eating disorder brain. So for example, if my eating disorder brain said to me, "You've already eaten so much today, you can't eat any more for the rest of the day," I would use my rational brain to say, well, I'm supposed to gain weight, first of all. And second of all, even if I wasn't supposed to gain weight, I would be so much happier in a bigger body than I would be listening to you. Cooking, okay? Fighting against your eating disorder brain is not just like a little game in your head, but for me, it really helped me realize how ridiculous the eating disorder brain was and how valid it was that I was moving forward. My last tip, I don't think this will surprise anyone, but unfollow the toxic social media accounts. Now, some social media accounts and posts have no harm intended, but they can be triggering when there are what I eat in a days that include body checks or very little food or some diet and exercise advice. No offense, but those with an eating disorder are the most vulnerable to this kind of content. Eating disorder recovery is already so hard, so do yourself a favor, make it a little bit easier by unfollowing the social media accounts that trigger you, make you want to go back to old habits, make you deny recovery, or make you dislike yourself. In the description, I'm going to include links to the Instagram and YouTube accounts of my favorite influencers that speak about recovery and body positivity. I think that making your social media include this type of feed is so helpful, at least for me it was, because I saw videos about recovery that were very relatable and made me feel seen and like I wasn't alone. I also saw so many supportive comments that encouraged me to keep going, daily reminders that encouraged me to keep going. I really think it's a positive thing. Those are all my tips. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that this video helped you in whatever way you need right now. Please let me know in the comments if there are any other tips or phrases that really helped you when you were struggling with food guilt or anxiety. I would really love to create a helpful and supportive community in the comments. Also, this video was suggested to me through a comment, so if you have any video ideas, please let me know and I will get to it. Lastly, please hit the like and subscribe buttons because I really appreciate your help and I want to reach more people, not for my benefit, but to help as many people as we can. Thanks again for watching and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye!